and you're on the lifeboat. As you can tell, my bobbleheaded partner is spending time with family. He covered for me last night, and I suggested that maybe he take Mother's Day and spend some time with his family. He pinches hits every time that I need him. He's just he's a rock that way. He really is. So I know that hold on one second. I know that his bride is getting ready to go back to school, so they're going to get to spend a little bit of time together on Mother's Day, which is just awesome. It really is. So I'm going old school. And for those that have been on the boat for a long period of time, we go old school all the time. In fact, in the old days, we only went old school, which is why we call it old school. But for those that are new, we'll go over the rules real quick. I'm not going to be any politics. Boy, there's enough of it going on. There's no reason to discuss it. Unless, of course, those politics have something to do with drugs. We'll just assume skip them. And it cuts down dramatically on arguments, I find. That's number one. Number two, boy, God gave us mothers. It's all right to say that, you know, it really is. What we try to avoid is when we start comparing one person's God to another, or we start telling someone if and why they're going to heaven or not going to heaven. Those things don't fly. So we'd like to avoid that. And if you can't control your tongue, you're probably not going to control your life. So let's not be dropping F-bombs in the comment section. We're better than that, right? This is certainly not a family-friendly show. We talk about some very grown-up issues. But regardless, let's see what we can do to clean up our speech just for the time that we're here. It's 1 hour a day. I think we can do it. And lastly, one of the most important rules of all, mean people stink. And we would just assume not have any mean people here. You know, there's a lot of blue wrenches for a reason. If you start being mean to anybody, in the comment section, we're going to get rid of you. So let's try to be kind to one another, you know. This whole process of trying to get sober is a tough one. It really is. So let's not make it more difficult by being cruel to one another, right? We're better than that. Hold on one second, people. I've been having a little bit of a struggle. Sorry. Little dead air. I apologize for that, but having a bit of a problem breathing. I have not been particularly healthy. As you may know, my mother was feeling under the weather, and today, boy, it's been me. And I went and did the antiques show where I set up and sell vintage watches, and it was. I probably shouldn't have done today's show, but I bailed out early yesterday, so I wanted to make sure that I was representing, you know, at the show. And honestly, people, I did swimmingly. In fact, it was probably the best weekend I've ever had in business. So it was productive, but it has left me somewhat drained, and just as rottenly, I bailed on my mother for Mother's Day, which is never a good thing. It really isn't. You know, no matter how old your mom is, there's a limited number of Mother's Days, and I spent this one away while she was under the weather, and feeling a little guilty about that. But today, people, we're going to talk about ladies in recovery. This is obviously Mother's Day, and if you don't have any children and you're a lady, you still have a mother, or you had one at one time. So we're going to talk about all things related to mothers and Mother's Day as it relates to recovery, because we're not, air quotes, normal, right? We have some issues that bind us all together. Aside from the fact that we're kind to one another, we all have been wrestling, and this is a tough day for a lot of people, says Space G's Lady's absolutely right. As we get older, a lot of us lose moms, right? I've been blessed that my mother is still with us, but I know that Mother's Day is a really tough day for a lot of people. And for many, Father's Day was tough for me. It's a difficult thing to lose somebody that you care that much about. And those days remind you. Here's the thing. I think that as with so much in life, the 5% is exactly what happens. And then the 95% is how you deal with it. You know, I have gotten to the point now where when Father's Day rolls around, for me, instead of being a day that I sort of wallow, and think about missing my father and going through that, I've made it a day to celebrate. I've made it a day where I concentrate on the memories of my father, and I think about some of the wisdom that my dad tried so hard to impart. And unfortunately, I didn't learn a lot of it until, I was really late in life. I think if I had been listening to that advice from Jump Street, who knows what I'd be doing today. But the fact remains that, yeah, you're right, Space. There, you are. This is such a tough day for so many people. And I think you have to almost take these days and focus on the things that, can make these days fantastic, even if, the person that should be sharing the day with you is gone. And another thing that's tough, even for a lot of people who have mothers who are here and don't have great relationships with those mothers, there are times in life that those relationships can be rebuilt. And there are times in life where, there's so much damage done that, there's not going to be much chance to rebuild. And, it's these auctions that, these shows that I go to. I have yet to go to one now. Normally I go into hiding, but I don't now. I love that. I love it. I'd like to think that everyone is in sobriety is moving forward, and you're starting, to get to a point. The longer you're in recovery, the more that some of the stuff that we used to hide from can really change and be something that's a completely different experience for us. These shows that I go to, where there's a lot of antiques and things, you see people who come in and they bring children with them. And I got a story from that. There was a gentleman who came in, and he was a black guy. And the reason I mention this is because he had a nephew with him who was a white boy. I don't know the story. There's no way for me to know the story, but there's a story. I don't know whether this boy's parents passed away. I don't know whether, this boy's parents are maybe not able to care for him or whatever the case may be. But under his breath, he said, I'll be taking care of him from now on, like for the rest of his life. And the love that this man showed for this boy was just astounding. And I missed a good deal of the conversation because at the time there was somebody that was showing interest in a very, very expensive watch, thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was talking to this person about a sale, and my partner who was with me at the booth was talking to this man and his nephew. And they kind of interrupted what I was doing and just said, "Hey, how much for this?" And it's a very, very inexpensive watch. And I said $40. Right. Normally I would sell the watch for about $100, but at these shows I don't have to pay seller's premiums. I don't have to ship them. I don't have to do all that. So we sell them quite cheap. And, they're in town. There's no shipping. It's really a benefit. And when I was done and I did sell the very expensive watch, I looked over at Jerry, the guy that I worked with, and I said, I can't believe the guy didn't pull the trigger for $40. I mean, how cheap did he want that watch? And he said, no, it wasn't him. It was the boy. The boy is saving money to try to get a watch. And apparently 40 was more than he had saved. But you don't see young boys who are into watches, right? That doesn't happen anymore because everything is on a phone. But he said, the kid just really sort of fascinated by the whole concept. And I felt like the world's biggest jerk. You know what I mean? Had I known that the watch was for the nephew, I would have given it to him. I mean, I don't have a lot of money into the watch. And when I said that, he goes, "They haven't left." So I took the watch and I started weaving my way through all of the booths trying to find this boy, and I couldn't. But I found his uncle. And I went up and I said, "Was that watch for you or was that for the boy?" He said, "No, it's for my nephew." I said, "Here, give it to him." And I'm bringing this up because I want you to go, "Hey, how cool is Tommy?" I'm bringing this up because he said, "You know what? I love that." He said that you're a class act. I can't tell you what a cool thing that is. He said, but I'm really trying to instill in him that you kind of got to save to get something. And I said, well, does he have anything saved? He said, yeah. I go, well, then here, take this. And whatever he's got saved, you can take it, put it into an account for him for something else. And, whatever the case may be, and tell him that. So I gave him the watch, and the boy came up, right, with eyes this big. And the watch is about this big, and it's on this little boy's wrist. It's just huge. And he came up with a $5 bill, right? And he said, my uncle wants me to learn that you really got to save to get something. So I want to pay you for this, which floored me. But the reason that I'm telling you the story is because obviously Father's Day is not going to be the same for this boy. I don't know the story, but his uncle is most assuredly now his father. And the guy's doing a kick-ass job of raising this kid. And, two different races. None of it, the love between this man and this nephew, who may as well be his son, right? The father and son relationship, no matter how it starts. But it occurred to me when they walked away that this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that, we really, if the world deals you a bad hand in family, you're not pigeonholed into it. There's no telling exactly how these things are going to work out. But this boy's got a father. And from the look of it, he's got a really good one. I mean, this was a guy, and the guy came back like 6 times, to thank us. But he was really, and as they were walking away, I heard him say to the boy, you see what happens when you do good things and you put money away to save? And I thought, it sounds like a dad talking to a son. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is. So if things are tough with the family that you got, if things aren't ideal, then build one, right? Now, this boy didn't get to choose who his dad was going to be, but I assure you, his uncle stepped in there and is taking it very, very seriously. There are so many different dynamics now that make a family. Make no mistake, people. This is a family. The other day, I did a show, and I don't know whether or not Cemetery ever saw it, but I did a show, and you people saw it, and I held up a watch, and I talked about it, and I talked about the history of the watch, and I said, and this one is in my collection. I'm not selling this. This is not a watch I'm going to get rid of, because it spoke to me, and there's a great story involved in it and everything else. The reason that watch was sold is because the guy that was interested in it is from the lifeboat. As far as I'm concerned, I was passing that on to family. You understand? So for the ladies in recovery, for those of you who are in the process of getting sober, Mother's Day doesn't have to be what Mother's Day is for everyone else. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care if you have a child. You can be a mother. Really. I mean, I've seen examples of this like I can't explain. Church today was different. People know I go to church because neither myself or my mom were particularly healthy. And this was not going to be a day that I was going to go and stand in a group of people and get them all sick. But when we went to church today, there was somebody that got up to talk about being a mother. And she gave birth to a child that had a terminal illness. And the child lived to 15. It was a heart-wrenching story. And I'll spare you because it's very, very difficult. It's a hard story to sit through. But I'll spare you the details that are heart-wrenching. But I will tell you that the child passed, and passed as a young adult. So 16, 17 in that age. And mom was left without a child and said, I don't ever want to be near a child ever again. Just don't want to see one ever again. Whatever I do with the rest of my life, I'm going to ensure that it has nothing to do with children. And as I was hearing this woman speak, I thought, I get that. I would be that person. I just don't think I would be able to handle it. And I started to think about all of the mothers who have had to endure things like that, and that I get it. It makes sense to me. Then she went on to say, and then, the world deals really unusual hands. Now, she credits this to God, but you can credit it to whatever. But as it turns out, she became a teacher, right? And I think probably because of what she endured, has more or less become a mother to hundreds and hundreds of kids, and has used the love that she has to really affect a change in a bunch of kids' lives. And she did this until the age of retirement, and then retired, and now volunteers, and everything she does voluntary, to all of her volunteering has something to do with kids. That staggers my imagination, because it really made a lot more sense to me when she was talking about how there's no way she could ever be near kids again. That made sense to me. The fact that she's done what she has with her life, I think, is just absolutely beautiful. But I don't want us to paint pictures that fall into some rigid line of what you're supposed to be as a woman, or for that matter, a man, or for what you're supposed to be as a father, or what you're supposed to be as a son, or what you're supposed to be as a brother. Don't let society dictate to you what role you're going to play. That's a terrible place to be. It really is. That is a terrible, terrible place to be. I've even taken care of kids who can't walk. I think that's beautiful. It really is. And if that's a calling, if it's something that you that's laid on your heart to do, what a beautiful thing. What an amazing thing. But I'm coming to learn, which I promise you, if you had told me any of this stuff 5 years ago, I would have been on the floor laughing at you. Maybe 7 years ago. But I have come to learn that the longer you're sober, the more things start to lay on your heart that you sort of transform, right? How you view things, the things that you do. I am most assuredly, people, not a normal, 52-year-old guy. And I don't know that I'm ever going to be a normal 52-year-old guy. There's not much chance of that happening. But, like after today, people, if you knew the number of watches that are they're not watches you can sell. I mean, they're mechanical and they got a beating heart and all of that, but I mean, you can scrap them, you could take them for parts or whatever, but even fully running, they're not worth putting in a box and shipping. You'd have to sell them for such a small amount of money. And it was funny because I swear to you, people, at the exact same time, me and Jerry, a guy that I work with all the time, said, we should just give these things to kids. Every single time we do one of these shows and a kid asks a question about a watch, we should just give a kid a watch. And again, this is not something that ever would have crossed my mind. If I could have gotten a buck for them, I would have gone that route. But I think that this journey into sobriety and into recovery gives you an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And we've talked about this so many times. I lost my firstborn child and grandchild. I was devastated. I remember reading this once before. Still am. It's sad because I find myself not wanting to get close to any two children or any other people. Fear of loss, I think. It makes absolute sense to me. It does. And certainly not something I could ever judge. But I'm no doctor, and I'm no shrink, and I'm not even particularly bright. But I implore everybody in any situation where the pain from your past dictates things that are happening in your life, just don't ever shut a door. And if it's too difficult and too painful, I respect that and I get it. Just don't think that that's the rest of your life. Don't shut a door, on the rest of your life, because there's no telling where this is going to take you. This woman who lost her daughter, and held her hand and talked to her while she was, taking her last breath. It was a young adult, and she just watched this girl die of a pretty horrendous illness, cystic fibrosis, which is a really tough, thing where they're basically going to suffocate. And she watched this happen, and I assure you, she didn't want to get close to any child ever again. And it makes sense. I get it. Just, you don't know what the future brings. The best part of sobriety, what makes the sobriety journey awesome, is that we don't know what tomorrow holds. As an addict, you know exactly what tomorrow holds, right? If your drug of choice was alcohol, tomorrow holds booze. The next day, booze, right? That is exactly what the future holds. As a heroin addict, tomorrow would have been stealing and trying to get dope, right? Or lying and trying to get dope, or hustling or conning and doing dope, and then waiting to get sick, and then doing dope. And that was my life for decades. I have no idea what tomorrow's going to hold. It's going to have something to do with watches. I can promise you that. It's definitely going to do a show on the channel here for people who are sober. But I don't know who I'm going to talk to about what. I'm going to be reaching out. My daughter was a huge motivation to stay sober. Bingo. My daughter, my son, two of my biggest motivations to get sober. And there was a time where they were the only motivation to get sober. But not knowing what the future holds and being wide open to some experiences that I never ever would have done in my previous life or even dreamed of doing in my previous life has now got a family that numbers in the hundreds, if not thousands. And the number of people who I care about, the number of people that really truthfully affect me, has grown to a sort of a ridiculous level. I spent about an hour and a half chasing down some information on a Timex watch for somebody on a lifeboat. And it's not something I would have done in my previous life. I wouldn't have. And you know what? It was a labor of love. It was a process because of the fact that it is an unusual timepiece, and one that was really North American, but not very American, right? As far as the U.S. American, it was just a process. But again, it's that you have no clue what tomorrow is going to hold, and that is the excitement to me of sobriety. It is the absolute cluelessness for what my future is, for real. I mean, if you've been on the lifeboat since the very beginning. You remember me coming on here and talking at length about going back to school and hopefully getting a master's degree to talk about... Tommy, just to let you guys know, my friend with addiction has been doing well and hasn't had a drop of alcohol since January. Tone Ranger, how cool is that? That is awesome. That is a beautiful thing, and I love those kinds of updates. I really do. I couldn't let that one pass up. But you remember me getting ready. I was going back to school, right? There was a place in Florida that had accepted me, and I could have told you what my future was going to hold. I knew, right? I had it all laid out, every bit of it. And they decided they didn't want someone who had a criminal record like mine in their school, in spite of the fact that they had already mailed me the books and already given me an advisor. Once my criminal record popped up in their NCIC computer, National Crime Information Computer background check, they gave me the boot. But I knew, people. I knew what my future held. I knew, right? This is it. I was going to do this and this and this. It was all all laid out and all regimented and ready to go. And as it turns out, I'm doing probably, I think, what I was born to do. I really do. I'm as happy in the watch game as I've ever been. This is just something that I love. It's a passion. I really, really dig it. And am I going to be doing that for the rest of my life? I don't know. Kind of feels that way right now. But the only person, the only incarnation of Tommy that could tell you what tomorrow was going to bring with absolute certainty was Tommy the junkie. That's it. I don't know what tomorrow holds. I really don't. I can tell you all are going to be in it. The common thread is that I'm going to be right here. Every single night I'm going to come here and I'm going to do that unless I'm sick. And I tell you, people, I feel like crap today. I really do. And coming home from this show, I came home a little bit early and I went and laid down for about an hour and a half and fell instantly asleep. Then got up to do the show, and I thought I'm gonna get on the show and I'm gonna just do a little abbreviated 15-minute thing because I just don't feel good. But like we have talked about before, Mark and I have talked about this a couple of times. I come on and I say, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville and you're on the lifeboat. And I see the stuff that you guys write, and it usually just pulls me through. For real, this is such a huge part of my sobriety, and more importantly, these days, it's such a huge part of my life. It really is. I derive a tremendous amount of peace, pleasure, significance. The lifeboat is a huge thing for me. But the point I hope you're getting is that that this is not at all what I anticipated life was going to be. Not at any stage of my life did I think that this was going to be, who I was to become. Now I have 2 full-time jobs. Really. I mean, the lifeboat's a full-time gig. And it's a labor of love. I'm not telling you that because it bums me out. I love it. I love it. I don't care if it ever makes a buck. I really don't. I don't care if we get 5 more subscribers. I'd love to reach 100,000 people because it would just be that much broader that the message would get out. And it's the reason I say things like, please share this with everybody else. Want to move to Arizona and leave my loser self behind. You know what? I have done a lot of moving in the past as a way to leave my loser self behind. And I have found over the years that I tend to follow myself wherever I go. And it's a thing in addiction for a lot of people where we come to believe that we can change exactly who and what we are by moving. I'm not saying that moving's not a great idea, because for a lot of people it is. But you kind of have to, no matter where you are, there you are, right? So you kind of have to work on making sure that that you take care of who you are, and then choosing where you live from that point on becomes something that's just cool. Yeah, no matter where you go, there you are. Yeah, exactly. I think when things get bad, it shakes you into getting it together. And especially when you don't have a choice. That's my experience. By the way, people, I've been corresponding back and forth with the major. And you know what? There's a lot to give there. And it's an individual who has a heart for service. And I don't know if maybe it's new. I don't know. Maybe it's been that way his whole life. But the major has expressed a desire to lend an ear whenever someone needs it. And it's just one more person who's stepping up to the plate to say, you know what, there is something I can do to help. And in the future, I'm not sure exactly how long, but in the future, there will be some information and some things put up so that all of you will have an opportunity, to have access. The more people on this boat that step up and say, if you're hurt and give me a call, right? If you're in a bad place, please reach out to me. That's kind of the nature of this whole gig that we got going here, right? Is that it's people in recovery helping people in recovery. And it's, leaning on one another and very much building a family, right? In the very beginning, we used to call it a support family. And I think the reason that we called it that is because we kind of wanted to separate the birth family from the chosen family, and then the support family I started referring to as the chosen family. You know what? It's verbiage, right? It's semantics. It's however you choose to to talk about it. But it's we've gotten to a day and age where there are certain things that people can't even define anymore. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. There are things that would have been very easy to define a decade ago, right? What is this? You would say, this is what that is. But the world is changing in such a way that, for better or for worse, I'm not getting into the politics of it, there are certain things that people can no longer just give you a clear definition for, or give you a definition for, period, right? Definition of the word family. I think that there are multiple definitions for that word now. Obviously, I saw a family today I saw a father and son that certainly didn't come into the world that way. That's just not how it worked out. Not in the very beginning, but it is certainly what they are right now. And continuous effort is the key to unlocking our potential. Boy, if that's not the truth, people. This is a day-to-day. Narcissism is a root cause for a lot of the negatives. There's a lot to that. I won't argue that point either. There is, and I think that I don't know how to explain it, but I think that narcissism is probably on the rise. I mean, in its truest form, narcissism is a mental illness. But I think that we live in a society these days that maybe not the mental illness form of narcissism, but social media, I think, can create narcissism, honestly. You know, what was a really cool concept in the very beginning, a way for people to just reach out and network and help one another and get to know one another and things like that, has become a, hey, check out how cool what I ate for dinner last night is. Check out how cool the shoes I just bought were. Check out the car that I just got. Look where I'm going on vacation, right? Some of the things that people post in social media, you look at it and you go, good Lord. You know, and we've talked about this many times on the lifeboat. One of the problems with that form of social media is no one ever comes on and goes, hey, this is a picture of me fighting with my son because I just caught him smoking pot for the first time. Oh, and this is a picture of the wife. Right now she's throwing a frying pan because I didn't call last night when I was playing cards. I didn't get home until 4 o'clock in the morning, and she thinks I might be having an affair, right? All of the crazy things that happen in a person's life, or all of the negative things that happen in a person's life, they don't end up in a post, right? The only thing that ends up in a post is the best of the best, right? And so we see these, and you watch 60 people post like that, and you go, man, everybody I know's got the perfect life but me. Look how happy all these people are, and I'm miserable, right? Well, nobody's that happy. It's fake, right? It's fake. It really is. It's one of those things, and it's glaring these days in social media. I had a person reach out to me because my watch collections are different classes of my watch collection get advertised in different places, and I've got some watches now that are very, very expensive. And somebody had actually reached out to us and asked if we would be willing to get into a rent program. I said, a rent program? Yes, they would pay you to, rent a Rolex for a night, or pay you to rent a Patek Philippe for a night, or whatever the case may be. And I thought, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. But you know why these people rent these? So that they can post stuff on social media. So they can do it's certainly not your love of the watch. It's certainly not something that means a whole lot to you. No, you just want the world to think that you're part of. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. And there are the exact same things happen right now with cars. I want to say it's called Taco or Anyway, there's an app out there now that gives you an opportunity to rent a ridiculous sports car for the day, or rent a huge, beautiful sedan for the day. And it's all designed so that you can represent to the world, usually through social media or whatever, exactly what it is that you want the world to see. And I find that bizarre. I really do. I find it bizarre. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the social media thing, because again, people, it does get back to the subject matter, believe it or not. There is, Tommy, it's all about images. Images take time to look good. They are looking out far greater than looking good. It's a bizarre thing, isn't it? I mean, it really is. But the world expects certain things, and those things are evolving. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. We started this show by Space saying this is a really tough day for a lot of people. It's a tougher day because of society, right? If you are a mother, you got to be the perfect mother, right? Your kids should have perfect clothes on, and there's all of these things that society will basically judge you as a mom for, or judge you as a woman for. Because as a woman, right, especially in these days, well, you need a career, right? And then you got to be the perfect mother, and you should have a decent looking husband, and you should have all. People forget any of the stuff that people push on to you. We're not normal. And because of that, we're more susceptible to that crap. right? The rest of the world is going to go through the same frustration. Oh, I can't stand Jennifer. Every time I go over there, her house is perfect. She just got a brand new car. She's always got her fingernails done. Like, how does she do the garden and still maintain a perfect manicure? She's got a French manicure, and her garden is perfect, and she always does it herself. And by the way, there's a pie baking and all of that. So you know what? Forget it. Forget it. I promise you, Jennifer's miserable. Miserable. Or she's the happiest cat alive. But either way, society tells you exactly what you're supposed to be. You know what you're supposed to be, people? You're supposed to be striving to be the best you that you can be. You're supposed to be striving to be the best mom you can be, right? Tommy, I also do completely opposite than the social media norm. So do I, right? I mean, honestly, what I do on social media, people, if you knew the number of cats that reached out to us and said, you're blowing this, right? Because you can't monetize live. And I think I've explained this a couple of times on the show, but when you do a live video, all of my views are going to take place in the first 48 hours. Because you want to be part of this, right? You want to be part of the experience. You want to talk to everybody in the live chat, and you want to see all of these people. I mean, that's really cool. That's kind of what makes this great. It's how we build a family. However, it takes about 3 or 4 days for YouTube. I'm sorry, my mustache is driving me crazy. I need to trim it. It takes 3 or 4 days for YouTube to look at the stuff that we're doing and saying, yeah, it's okay. This can be monetized. By then, we're not going to get a view. And I don't care. I don't. It's not why we're doing this. You ain't normal if you spread cheesecake on a pancake like you would butter. I'm not going to lie to you. That sounds really good. Honestly, that isn't normal, but that sounds really good. I can see that. I'll tell you one I really used to like if you want. I know I digress viciously, but I used to like to take a honey bun. And then I would take a nutty bar. You know what those are? Like the Little Debbie nutty bars, the peanut butter and chocolate wafered bars. I would take the honey bun and wrap it around the outside of it so it looked like a taco. And then you put that in a microwave oven for about 25 or 35 seconds. Yeah, that was anyway. That does sound good. Leisure says, that sounds good, Cemetery. It really does. It really, really does. And Joanna W., she's not asking whether or not my cat is in the basket. She's commenting on the fact that I can't seem to stay on the subject matter. I'll tell you what, my worst squirrel, Lord Kiss Freak, man, you should be banished, to the great white north for siding with the Vegemite team. It's more difficult to not squirrel when I'm here without my bobbleheaded partner. Traditionally, people, my bobbleheaded partner, if you guys say something really great in the comments, and it seems like, boy, Tommy is really paying attention to everything, because right in the middle of what he's talking about, he was able to talk to me. I got Mark in my ear, right? You can't hear him, but I can. And he'll say, oh, great comment. Right? Or you really need to see what Full of Hope just wrote, or you need to see what Joanna W. just wrote. So without Mark here, I have to really pay attention. Now, right there where the camera is, right here to the right of it, I'm watching the stuff scroll up. And then if I look over here, I've got a full-size screen. So when you see me do this one, it's because your stuff here disappears very quickly. So I got to go down to this one, and that'll be there for a long time, and I can actually catch the entire thing. And then I got another one that's in my hand, so that if I need to do something, unique in terms of looking something up, I can pop down to this. But in the beginning, there was none of that. You guys remember in the old days, I was really technologically challenged, and I still am. Mark really. Hey, wait a second. Bubba says, hi, family. Happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there. Bubba, good to see you, my friend. Bubba is a very old friend of mine, people, and I have been guilty. I'm glad that he popped in right when he did, because I have been guilty of not saying hello to Bubba when he pops into the live chat. There are nights when my producer, my bobbleheaded producer, is with me, and I've got my my earbuds in, right, so that he could talk to me without you guys hearing, that I look at the camera and I don't do anything else. I forget everything that's going on and I just focus and I do my show. And honestly, there are people who say those are the best shows, and then I get emails from people who say it stinks when I do that, and there are people who seem to really like it when I squirrel off in 100 directions. I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I kind of enjoy the show every night, so... and I've gotten to the point where I am very technically challenged. Pamela, I get it. I really, really get it. But I've gotten to the point, people, where I don't play any of the games. I used to remember in the very beginning, I used to get so bogged down by analytics. I wanted to know why one video gets 700 views and why another video gets 120. Like that was something that I believed there was a way to read that stuff and it was just going to make sense. I don't care anymore. And I'm so much happier since I don't go and look at analytics. Because the analytics thing, you know what? Charlie Mullins going to jump in on the, yep, Charlie. That's the thing with Charlie Murphy. He sneaks up on you. You think Charlie's just a good dude, but he sneaks in those Vegemite comments and those other ones when I'm not paying attention. I get it. I'm going to make one after the show. But, see, we'll weave it back in there. I promise. Before the end, we will weave it back in there. Happy Mother's Day to all of you ladies out there who are mothers. And to all of you who aren't, happy Mother's Day anyway, right? We all have a mother. I think that this day is just as much about all of us celebrating mothers, right? It is their day. But, man, I've had a really great run with a really fantastic mother. And like I said, today's the day I bailed on her. And she's already gone to bed. She's not feeling well. And I'm wrestling with that. You know, it was a business thing, and it was a very productive business thing. By the way, the last 2 days have been the most productive of my new fledgling business career. It was really an amazing couple of days. But it was a crap time to not be around and helping my mom. And you know what, people? That's part of this, right? It's just the way that it is. You know, the greatest laid plans, it never works out the way we want it to. No matter how good you're doing, right? You could be sober. You could be doing everything right. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Spend it with her tomorrow, Tommy. Oh, I intend to. I absolutely intend to. And there is a great, I say Vegemite Systroming tacos. You know why you say that? Is because you've never had Systroming. Oh, I wish I could just send a little bit to every one of you, because that is just, oh God, cemetery, you would just, oh, it's so vile. I read the word, I swear to you, I read the word and I can smell it. It's just one of those, oh, I have seen the Systroming smoothie. My sick brother actually did that, and it's just the worst, absolutely the worst. I can't wrap my brain around it, but it was worth it. I brought a lot of people in, and before I'm not exaggerating, 150 of you, if not more, have said, you know, we're really coming up on the anniversary of the Systroming thing. People, it's not going to happen again. Sorry, there's no way I'm doing that again. Really, if I thought every one of you could bring 5 people in, I might do it, but I take that back. I don't know that I could do it. It's the most vile and foul thing in the world. But again, no matter what we lay out, people, no matter how great you think you've planned everything out, no matter how you've planned for every inevitability, you don't have a clue what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't. So the idea is you pay attention to as much as you possibly can. You bring in every tool that you possibly can for sobriety, and you just work at this thing. It's got to be a full-time devotion to being sober, because I promise you, you know, we're clueless. Tomorrow might be great, and it might stink. I'm at that time of the month where I've got to put in my monthly probation report. I went to put it in, and it said instantly, you have to contact your probation officer. This is locked. Now, I've done shows on this. I've done multiple shows on this. The old Tommy would have had a meltdown. I would have said, why did they lock that? I must have done something wrong. They must want me. People are like, there's nothing I've done wrong. I've gotten to the point now where I no longer go to the worst possible case scenario of any bump in the road. The computer system's not working right. That's what it is. There's no other explanation. And even if there is another explanation, I have done nothing, right? So I got nothing to worry about. It's like my dad used to say, do good and fear not. If you're doing right, you got nothing to worry about. Once I realized that about 95% of my life was out of my hands, I felt relief. My anxiety dropped. Full of hope, I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's the gospel truth. It really is. We've beat this to death on the show, and I'll continue to beat it to death. 5% of our life is what happens. 95% is how we deal with it. You're not going to believe this, people. I've been bragging, right, about it's short sleeves. I had shorts on. You remember about 2 weeks ago I said, you've been doing the show a long time when I'm sitting here filming with shorts on again. Because when I started filming, I always had on shorts. And, I've made it through the entire year and I'm back in shorts. It's snowing in northern Nevada today. Snowing. Yesterday I went out to do the show. I did it in T-shirts. Yeah, why worry about something that might not happen? The major's right. But the thing is, we do. As addicts in recovery, we build up things into the worst case scenario every single time. I told another story, if you've been on the boat long enough. Yeah, snowing, Stacy. Can you believe this? And it's supposed to happen for 2 or 3 days. It was 70 degrees last week. It's snowing now. I've told the story a couple of times on the show, but about 2 or 3 months back, I got a letter in the mail that said, we need you down at the probation department. And for those of you who have been on the show a long time, I'm on probation. It's part of the crime that I committed carries a pretty long tail on the end of when you get free. For years you still have to report and do all of that. So what ends up happening is, now I've got to get in a car and I got to drive down there. But as it turns out, I got this thing on a Friday in the mail. So I had to go Saturday and Sunday and Monday, and I had to sit and think about all of the reasons that they might want to see me. And as a person in recovery, I do what so many people in recovery do, and I think of all of the reasons that they might want to see me. Maybe there was something from 10 years ago I didn't get caught for, and they're going to charge me with just ridiculous stuff that didn't even make sense. But I just kept building it up in my head, and I went down. And I got there and they said, everybody has to do a poll, right? To tell us basically how you think you're being treated by the probation department and how things are going and, how you feel. And it's anonymous. So you can say stuff like, yeah, I am still using and I'm doing it on the side because your name isn't on it or any, then they're trying to get all of these statistics about probationers. And, they found that when they asked people to mail it back in, nobody does it. So they had to have every single person go down there and do it, which was just absolutely, pointless. But I built this thing up in my head until it was terrifying. This is about 7 months ago, I think. They called me down the next time, and I had done a show that night talking about how you can't always go to the worst case scenario. Start going to the best case scenario and see how your life changes. So, as so often happens, I find myself in the middle of one of my own lectures because they reached out to me and said I had to come down again. And this time I was like, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, they're going to kick me off probation early. Maybe he's calling me down there to say, Tommy, you've done everything right. You haven't failed a test. You haven't missed a counseling session. You haven't missed a payment. You've been the best probationer I've ever had. We're going to kick you off early. And the difference of walking through that door after spending an entire day thinking about what the best case scenario might be? And when I walked in, there was a whole crowd of people in there. And I knew right away that that's not why I was there, because there's no way they were kicking all of us out. No, what they were doing was, I call a phone number every single night. And that phone number will say, enter your number. If you've been on the boat long enough, I actually did this once so that everybody could hear it. and it says either you do not have to come in tomorrow or you have to come in tomorrow. And it tells you that you have to report in for your drug test. But a couple of times a year, they're just going to call you out of the blue and say, you need to come down and do it at the probation office. And people, I can't tell you how amazing it felt to walk into that room and know that, you know what, I had nothing to worry about. I was living that life. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. And I sat in that room and I told the story on the lifeboat already. There was a guy in that room, and I've been that guy for so much of my life. I looked at him and I wanted to cry because he had that deer in the headlight that I can't believe they called me look. That please God, let whatever amount of water he just drank or whatever, he was looking like he needed a miracle. And there was nobody in that room that didn't know he was wasted. And there were about 3 guys in there that were panicky, but this guy was wasted. Like, you looked at him and you knew that there was no way on God's green earth that he was going to pass a drug test in any way. And I was that guy for so long. And then I'll tell you, you sort of just really become a new creation, because for a second I thought, man, I'm glad I'm not him. Boy, am I glad I'm not him. And then I don't know whether reverting to my old self or whatever, but there was almost a chuckle like, yeah, better him than me. And then I remembered being that guy. And I remembered what it looked like to look around the room and think, that dude right there, that guy's sober. He's got nothing to worry about. And I'm going to go back to prison, right? And just panicking. And I said a prayer for the cat. I wanted to actually say to him, hey, check out the lifeboat. But I didn't know how they would react to me sort of marketing the lifeboat to people in there. But whatever. So Monday I will be going down. Tomorrow I'll be heading down to that office and saying, hey, what's up with your computer system? Fix that thing. It's starting to drive me nuts. But yeah, people, we don't know what tomorrow brings, right? We don't. Today, ladies, right? Don't let the world tell you what you need to be. Be true to yourself. The same applies to guys, but this is your day, ladies, right? Don't let the world tell you what a mom is supposed to be. Don't let the people that sell you whatever show you a picture of what mom is supposed to be. Like June Cleaver, happy with her 4 kids and the house is perfect. And, she looks like she's going out to a cocktail party while she's in the kitchen cleaning. Don't believe it. Don't believe social media. Don't believe any of that garbage. The only person that you owe this to is you. For real. You need to be the best mother you can, but you're the only person that can answer whether or not you're being the best mother you can. No one else can pass judgment on that. No one else can answer that question for you. Your kids can't even, right? They really can't. Now, what you need to do is just concentrate on having a relationship with your kids. And if that relationship isn't great because of the things that we've done in our past, reach out to them. Reach out. I'll tell you what, I had a dad in particular. They reached out to me and said, I just don't know how to put this back together. You know what I mean? I feel so awful for how I was for so long with my kids. He's like, I didn't beat them or anything like that. I wasn't there as a dad because of the drugs. And I can't tell you how it weighs on me and just how bad I feel. And I let him go on for 2 or 3 minutes. And he got to the end. He goes, do you have any advice? I said, have you ever told your kid exactly what you just told me? Word for word. Have you ever said that to your son? He said, no. I said, well, holy hell. Wouldn't that have been a great place to start? If you feel like maybe you weren't being the greatest mom, or for that matter, dad, and you can articulate it. You can say, I feel awful for exactly how I did. I just don't feel like I was a good dad, or I don't feel like I was a good mom. And it really kind of destroyed, the relationship that I had with my kid. And I honestly feel really, really guilty about it. If you feel that way and you've never said that to your kid, I promise you, I'm not the Dalai Lama and I'm not a guru, but I promise you, you want to start putting a relationship back together with the kid that you feel like you did wrong? Try that. Try it. I did it. I remember calling my son and talking to him for the longest time about what a rotten dad I was, and just how awful a father I had been, and that, the guilt I felt for it. And I'll be honest, people, I got to the end of it, and he was like, "The hell are you talking about?" For real. I think we're very often much tougher on ourselves than, than you get it from other people, and that your kids might have seen. Like, I remember talking to my son and coming clean and telling him, hey, I used a lot of drugs. I was addicted to heroin for a really long time. And my son saying to me, "I didn't know. I really didn't know." And as he got older, especially, and knowing that I was a heroin addict, there were things in his life that didn't make sense to him then that started to make sense. Like when times were tough and he just assumed that maybe it was a work thing or whatever, he's come to realize that times were tough because dad was doing dope, My 11-year-old tried to fire me the other day. I work for his dad. Oh, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. That's if that wasn't so sad, it would be funny. That's just awful. Good night, everyone. Much love to you all. Bless you all. Sleep well and be encouraged. You know what, people? We're at the top of the hour. And honestly, thank God that we are. I am dragging. Let me apologize for the circuitous way that I went down the squirrel hole 500 times today, people. It was, I am as tired as I have been in a very, very long time. And the major says, "Cat in a basket." Yes, it is that time. And fortunately, she went to work today the way she was supposed to. Probably because I was gone all day and she didn't have a great deal of time to play with me. But people, I'm going to be back tomorrow night. I promise you. My bobbleheaded partner will be with me. And we're going to be doing what we do. Between now and then, I want you to reach out and try to save somebody. And you know what? If you're a mom, don't beat yourself up for what you think you were. Right? Best you can do is from this point forward. And don't let anybody tell you what kind of woman you're supposed to be. Don't let anyone tell you what kind of mom you're supposed to be. You know. You know when you're being a great lady, and you know when you're being a great mom. And that goes for guys too. But ladies, this is your day. God bless every single one of you. Have a happy Mother's Day. Where would we be without moms, huh? There'd be no show. All right, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. There is nobody on the other side of the glass, but this is a very, very cute cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. I love you. See you tomorrow night.